How are we doing today? Okay, here we go. Talking about early recovery. Okay, so talking about early recovery. First of all, making the decision to go into recovery. What happened? How did you do it? Like, what was the thing that happened that you decided I need to do something different? For me, I was walking down a major highway. I had no place to put my clothes. So I was literally carrying a garbage bag on my back, just like walking around, trying to figure out how I was going to find a place to to hang out, a place to get out. It was July. It was hot as hell. And I didn't have any friends or any people or anybody that I could call. I had really like burned every bridge. And like when I burned a I would literally so I really had to, um find some people who were literally willing to help me because I had just like jacked up all of my opportunities of people who were willing to help me. So I had to figure out like on my own, how am I gonna do something different? I knew that I wanted to do something different. I didn't know how. Um, this lady called me. She had just got out of prison, and she was this lady that I used to sell drugs with. We used to commit crimes together. We used to do all these crazy things. And she called me. She just got out of prison, and she said, "Hey, I'm going to the Sober Living in Athens, and I think you should come." And at that point, walking around with a garbage bag on my back in July in the heat, right? No place to go. I was like, you know what? I'm gonna go too. I'm gonna go to a sober living too. And in that moment, I surrendered, right? Like I was like, oh my goodness, like I need to do something different, and I'm going to. So that's what I did. And it took about a week or two to actually get into the sober living facility. But when it happened, when I truly made the decision and I threw my hands up in surrender, it was honestly like the doors just started opening. I literally I had to come up with $500 to get into the sober living. And it just so happened like it worked out that somebody actually paid my way, paid my entry to get into the sober living facility. And I remember when I went there, like I tried to back out. Like I was like, can I go like get some lunch and then come back? And they were like, no, if you you either come in now or you just don't come in. And I had no place to go. I was tired of walking around and being homeless and not having a place to sleep, So I go into this house. It's this big house, and there's 13 other girls in there. So I'm living in this house with 13 other women. It was almost reminded me of like a sober sorority house. It was so weird. But you know what? These 13 other women were trying to do the same things that I was trying to do. They were broken. They were traumatized. They were addicted. They needed to get their life together, and most of them were moms. So for me, in my addiction, I was always so alone. Like always just like lonely, just me. I never had any friends. I remember crying and praying like so many times about like wanting to have friends and needing to have friends, and never being able to have friends. And so when I finally got into the sober living, it was like, wow, like this is amazing. Like I actually have friends, people who are doing the same thing that I'm doing, and it's just amazing. Rotate device. Is it supposed to go this way or is it supposed to go this way? There we go. Okay. So when I went into this house, which was literally like a sober sorority house, there was a bedroom. So I had like a bedroom and it had 2 bunk beds. And so I had like my own bed with sheets, like my own sheets. It was safe. That was like the biggest thing to me. I was like, okay, I'm in this place and it's safe. Like nobody's gonna bother me, nobody's gonna touch me. As a victim of sexual assault and I was like human trafficked, I'm really big on safety, on people being like in my personal space, especially, men. So for me, having that space that was safe for me was so important. And so I had a dresser, because I shared the room with a girl, I got half the dresser. And that to me was amazing because, like I told you, I walked around with a garbage bag on my back. So walking around with a garbage bag on your back with no place to put your stuff, and now all of a sudden I have a dresser that I can put my clothes in, like that is a miracle. That is amazing. So I have this half a dresser to put my stuff in. I've got half a closet. Oh, here was the best thing. I had a kitchen. There was like a kitchen in the house and it had like all this food. So I didn't have to worry about when am I going to eat next? How am I going to find something to eat today? I didn't have to worry about it. There was food there. It was amazing. I had a bathroom, and was able to take a shower, whenever I wanted to. And it was just really cool. Like the community, we had to do these like house meetings where we had to share things and go on topics and stuff. And for me, for the first probably the first month that I was there, I just kind of like stared off. Like I didn't want to talk to anyone. I didn't want to let anyone in. I didn't trust these people. But after a little while, I started to let people in and I started to heal all this trauma. I truly believe that trauma is a gateway to addiction. And I believe that that's where my addiction started was trauma from growing up in an alcoholic household with a father who was very just like violent, abusive. It was the walking on eggshells factor. My dad was like amazing like half the time. You know what I mean? Like half the time he was amazing. He played with me, he watched scary movies with me, made snacks together, played games together. It was so fun. The other half of the time he was, dragging me by my hair, kicking me, down the hallway. And you just never knew what you were going to come home to. Am I going to come home to my dad who was amazing and loves me and wants to play with me all the time? Or am I going to come home to this dad that is violent and abusive and drunk? So it was just never knowing what you were going to come home to. So trauma for me was huge, absolutely huge. And if anybody out there, please comment if you can relate to this, if you can relate to the fact of, trauma in your childhood that causes so much, especially mental health and anxiety and depression and things like that. Not saying that we can't heal and grow from it. Absolutely. Not saying that I didn't make a choice to turn to drugs and alcohol, to cover that trauma instead of dealing with it through, counseling or whatever, right? Because we do have that choice in the beginning. I do believe addiction is a disease, but I also do believe that it starts with a choice. And I made the choice that I was going to, try to change the way I feel with substances. And that's how I got myself into all of this mess that I got myself into. July 20th, 2015 is the day that I came into recovery. So that means that in, 8 days? In 8 days is my 7-year birthday. We call that our birthday. I'll be 7 this year, since I have had to, stick a needle in my arm to change the way I feel. and it has been amazing. I've been through so many things in my recovery that have just like helped me build this foundation of ways to cope, because I think that that's a huge problem, right? Is that we don't have coping skills. And so I had to learn how to cope with things and how to deal with life. We call it dealing with life on life's terms. That's one of those like slogans you learn in recovery, dealing with life on life's terms. And it was so hard, you know, to accept things as they were. Early recovery for me, I had to learn how to, you know, go to work every day. I had to learn how to like dress for an interview. I had to learn how to speak professionally to people, to write a resume. I mean, I didn't know how to do any of those things. And so I had to learn all of these things that for most people you would think is simple. Yeah, Jamie, every day you're supposed to take a shower and, you know, wash your hair and blow dry it and, you know, dress a certain way to go to an interview. Well, I had to relearn all that. It was not like natural for me. You know what I mean? It took like the ladies in the house like, hey sis, you can't wear that top to go to an interview. Like, no, that's unprofessional. You can't have your cleavage hanging out to go to an interview. You're crazy. You're trying to get a job. What kind of job are you trying to get? You know what I'm saying? And we're not trying to live like that anymore. That's what we would always say. And so for me, it was learning the basics, relearning the basics, you know? And then, you know, for me, I had to go through, you know, meetings, 12-step meetings. And it was like, I had to learn, you know, relearn all these things like relational skills. And then, you know, and then it got into some deeper stuff, you know. The first thing we learned about is like powerlessness and acceptance. Like powerless, like what am I powerless over? Like I can't control the fact that everybody in my life is still pissed off at me because of the choices that I made, right, in early recovery. So I had to be able to differentiate, to learn what it meant to be powerless and to be able to accept the fact that I was powerless in these circumstances and that there was nothing I could do about them. That was another really big thing in early recovery that, you know, was actually freeing in a sense, right? Like it sounds kind of stupid, like, oh, I'm powerless over that, so I'm not going to worry about it. But it was very freeing. I didn't have to control the situation. I didn't have to try to grasp tight of the situation, you know, which is something I still, control issues, still struggle with today. But just being able to say, hey, if it's not like literally like in this area, I have no control over it, right? And being able to accept that and be okay with that. Like I have no control over that. There's nothing that I can do with that. And I'm going to move on to things that I do have control over, you know? So it helped me to be able to focus on the things that I could have, you know, that I could change. Because in early recovery, there's not much you can change, you know? You can only change the things that are in front of you, right? There's a lot of mess that we make in our addiction that we want to change right away. I remember trying to make amends at like 30 days sober. It's like, no, you don't do that. You have to like give your family time. That's another topic we can talk about another day, is families and how to, you know, appropriate time and to make amends and how to do those things. But I really enjoyed being on with you guys today. Please share this live and comment on here. Let me know where you're from, if you're in recovery, if you're an ally in recovery. I'd really like to know. And thank you so much. I will talk to you guys soon.